Hi everyone, welcome back. Firstly, let me apologise for my tardiness. It's been ages since I did my last video, and amazingly some people have been waiting for another one. So I can only apologise, you know how life gets in the way of things. If you watched the last one, we looked at the tone control panel. If you managed to get your way through that, then today's going to be a breeze because we're going to look at the HSL and colour panel. Let's get straight into it. And of course we're going to use our famous cows on a rock picture for this demonstration. And we're going to just jump into the development panel. In the HSL colour panel, just make sure HSL is selected, and we're on saturation to start with. And what this panel allows us to do is to change the hue, read similar colour. If I just click over to that, you'll see red, got some oranges and stuff there. The saturation of the colour, and we can change the luminance or the brightness of the colour, and we can do it on different colour ranges if you like. Reds, yellows, greens, blues, and so on. We can pick out areas in our picture, the blue for example, and we can actually change those values individually without affecting other colours. We have to remember when using this panel that the effect is global for the whole picture, so it may affect other areas of the picture where you might not expect it to. Let me show you an example actually. Let's go back to the library a minute. Let's use this picture here. So we've got this bright red tutu for example. Go back into develop. If I change the saturation, we get the obvious effect in the tutu where we can see the red getting much more vivid, and for that matter the rose. Let me just zoom in on the face and take the saturation down for example, and you'll see that I'm actually affecting the face as well, and in some cases that may be okay, but in other cases it might give you some pretty strange effects. So just be mindful that you're affecting the overall picture. Let's go back to our cows. So back into Peak District. Whoops. Go back to my grid. There we go. And develop that. Slightly zoomed in there for some reason. Okay, I'm actually going to go right back in the history of this picture and go right back to where we imported it. And we can see the original picture. I'm going to come forward a little bit. So let's see, let's take it about there when we went with auto settings, just to take the picture back to its basic colour. This one's been played around with quite a lot, so let's have a look at these tabs and these options. We've looked at saturation briefly, and like we said, what we can do is we could, for example, increase the saturation in our sky. Take our skies, can make more blue, and we've got a lot of green in the picture. So we could increase the saturation of the green. I don't like to overdo the green, to be honest with you, too much. It can look a bit garish. One of the other things to notice about grass is it does actually have quite a lot of yellow in it. So we can change the colour of the grass by changing the yellow saturation as well. So we can play around with all those different colour channels. We've got some heather over in the back here. Maybe a bit of purple perhaps. Don't know. It's not making much difference. About the magenta, yeah, we can see that just bringing the colour out. So by playing around with the saturation, we can obviously improve the saturation of the colours. If we look at hue, this is really variations around the colours. So for example, the blue, we could get some really funny funky skies if we wanted to, and we're just affecting the blue channel in the picture, but we're changing the hue of those blue colours. And you can do some pretty funky things if you wanted to. A little bit of a purple sky. Again, the greens, we can change them. So it's really allowing us to do our colour grading to a certain extent if we want to. I think we probably best recover the sky a little bit. Maybe take some of the green out of the grass. Let's take the saturation down on the green as well. We've already got the yellow down quite a lot. And lastly, if we look at luminance, we could actually brighten up some of these areas. So now we could make the grass slightly brighter, for example. Take the colours up. And if you remember, we've got yellow in there, so we can take the luminance of the yellow up. And we're just bringing up now the shadow in that foreground, which is quite useful sometimes. Let's just go back in our history again to our auto settings. We mentioned that, like the grass, for example, has green and yellow in it, and it's not always obvious what colour we want to pick to make the adjustment. And one of the useful features here is this little icon here. If we click on it, it gives us this little option to hover over our picture, and you'll see if I click and hold and move my mouse up, you will see over on the right hand side that the yellow and the green is increasing in the luminance. What's happened is Lightroom's worked out what colours we're sampling effectively, and it's allowing us to adjust them just by moving the mouse up and down, or for that matter left and right, I believe. There we go, up and down. And again, we could come up to the sky, click in the sky. Let's take the luminance of the sky down. There we go. And we can do that for things like saturation as well. We've still got our little icon selected. So let's reduce the saturation in the sky. It's a little bit too much. And in the grass, I think, just take that down. So just by clicking on an area, holding the mouse down, we can adjust these values, or Lightroom will work out which colours we want to change, which is quite useful. Obviously, we can do the same thing with hue. We could get some pretty strange results, I would think, but no, not too bad. Again, we didn't know, for example, whether this was purple or magenta, but if I click in it, interestingly enough, you can see that it's moving the orange and the yellow slider quite a lot as well. There we go. We've probably just slightly outside of the area, but now I'm clicking, so you need to be careful where you sample. Yeah, magenta. You'll notice we've had some strange effect on the cows now, though. I suspect this is this. There we go. If we reset those, magic. If you're wondering what the all is, pretty straightforward. It's all of those together. It just gives us the ability to see the same settings, but in one single list, as it were. So at the top, we've got our hue options, various colour channels, our saturation, and our luminance. Again, we can click on the button to affect those different areas, should we want to. So just a different way, really, of viewing the settings. Likewise, another way we can view the information is by going over to the colour option. If I click on colour, you'll see that now, believe it or not, this is red highlighted. If I click on there, you see the little white dot inside the colour. So we've got red selected, and it basically gives us the same three sliders. We can adjust our hue for our red area. You can see that on the cows there. So we can take it up, give them a little bit more of a brown colour perhaps. We can change the saturation and obviously the luminance, so we can make them a little bit darker. And we can select the colour channels here and basically change the values in exactly the same way. And again, if we go right to the end, this little funny one, that gives us all of our colours with our 3 individual sliders for each one. So really, it's just the same way, or I should say it's a different way of manipulating the colours. One place I do use the HSL tab quite a lot, funnily enough, is in portraits. If I go back to my library, go into this one, I want to do develop this. Here the skin's quite washed out, to be honest. It's very pale, and what I can actually do is, I'm going to do it in HSL because that's my own preference, and if I use our little colour picker, and I can just take up what is effectively the oranges and reds in the picture, just to give the picture or the face a little bit more colour. You'll see that the skin's predominantly orange. There's a little bit of red in there. You can take up a bit more just to highlight the effect. Probably too much now, but you can see that you can just improve skin colour very subtly if you're careful with the sliders. Incidentally, you might hear this tool being referred to as the TAT tool, T-A-T, Target Adjustment Tool. So if ever that comes up, you think, oh yeah, I know what that is now. So that's it for this tutorial. Although the HSL colour panel does seem to have rather a lot of sliders and options on it, it's actually quite straightforward to use. My one piece of advice really would be just be careful, keep an eye on the overall image as you're adjusting these things, because you may be affecting other areas of the picture that you don't realise. But apart from that, it's just a case of getting in there and having a play around with it. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're not already a subscriber, it'd be great to get you on board. Click on the old subscribe button, Until next time, take care.